Welcome to Book Reviews, where we explore the best books across every genre. I'm Joanna McCann. I'm joined as always by Gerald LeBlanc. Don't forget to grab your free copy of the audiobook using the link in the description below. Let's get started.
Okay, so we're diving into some really fascinating stuff you've sent over.
Yeah.
A lot from Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way.
Right.
Plus, you've even included some cool stories about, like, famous people. Looks like you're ready to turn some obstacles upside down.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing to see how people from all walks of life, like business, politics, even philosophy, have used these obstacles as stepping stones to get to success.
Right.
There's definitely a pattern here.
Yeah, so today we're going on a treasure hunt, I guess you could say.
Okay.
We're digging for the best strategies and the best mindsets to turn those trials into triumphs using these amazing stories as our map. So
What's so fascinating about Holiday's work is this idea that obstacles are inevitable, but they don't have to stop us. They can actually become the path to success if we approach them the right way.
So I love how he just jumps right in and talks about the power of perception. He says that how we see and understand things really dictates how we react.
Yeah.
And ultimately, how well we overcome them.
Yeah.
So what can our listeners learn from that?
It's not about pretending things aren't tough.
Yeah.
It's about choosing a more empowering way to look at them.
Okay.
Like take John D. Rockefeller, for example.
Right.
He saw the financial panic of 1857, not as a disaster, but as a chance to learn and ultimately dominate the oil industry.
Wow.
So for our listeners, this means looking for the hidden opportunity in every crisis you face.
It's such a powerful example because it really highlights how the same event can be a disaster for one person and a springboard for another.
Totally.
It all comes down to perspective, right?
Absolutely. Our perception shapes our reality. And if we can train ourselves to see obstacles as challenges to be overcome rather than these insurmountable roadblocks, we're already on our way.
So we've got Rockefeller finding opportunity in an economic crisis, but Holiday doesn't stop there. He also talks about Reuben Hurricane Carter.
Oh, yeah.
Who used his wrongful imprisonment to study law and philosophy, ultimately emerging even stronger.
And there's Laura Ingalls Wilder, too. Yeah. Facing the harsh realities of frontier life.
Yeah.
She chose to see it all as an adventure, focusing on the positive aspects of each challenge.
Yeah. So instead of getting bogged down by all those hardships, she found a way to embrace the experience. Almost like finding a way to enjoy the journey, even when the road is bumpy.
Exactly. And what's so interesting here is the common thread.
Yeah.
It's not about ignoring the difficulty, but choosing to see it through a different lens.
It seems like a big takeaway here is that mindset really matters.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about positive thinking, though.
Yeah.
Holiday also talks about the importance of mastering our emotions, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He compares it to astronaut training, where panic can be fatal. It's about cultivating a stoic sense of stillness. Not the absence of feelings, but the absence of those harmful, unhelpful ones.
So what's the takeaway here for our listener who's maybe facing a really tough situation at work or in their personal life? How can they find that stillness?
It's about taking a step back before reacting.
Okay.
Holiday gives practical tips like asking yourself, is this worth freaking out over? Or does getting upset prevent me from acting with justice, generosity, self-control?
Okay.
It's about using logic to overcome those knee-jerk emotional reactions.
It's like hitting the pause button before we let our emotions take over.
Exactly. It's so easy to get swept away by our emotions when we face setbacks.
Right.
But Holiday reminds us that we have the power to choose our response.
Right.
We can pause, analyze the situation objectively, and then decide how we want to proceed.
So we've talked about perception and we've talked about emotional control. What's the next step in turning obstacles into opportunities?
Action.
Okay.
Holiday stresses the discipline of taking action. It's about being proactive, not waiting for things to magically improve.
Right.
He tells the story of Demosthenes, the Athenian orator, who overcame a speech impediment and a stolen inheritance to become one of history's greatest speakers.
That's a perfect example of someone who didn't let challenges define him.
Right.
He used them as fuel to work harder and achieve greatness.
Demosthenes embodies the idea that action is the antidote to adversity.
I love that.
Holiday urges us to be like him, to play the hand we're dealt to the best of our ability, instead of folding.
I find it interesting that Holiday doesn't just talk about taking like grand sweeping action. He also emphasizes focusing on the process, breaking down large tasks into smaller, manageable steps. Using the example of football coach Nick Saban, who encourages his players to focus on each play, each down, rather than getting overwhelmed by the scale of the entire game.
That's a great point. It's about doing what we can with what we have right now, rather than getting stuck in overwhelm or inaction.
So it seems like the first 3 steps in turning obstacles upside down are shifting our perception, managing our emotions, and taking decisive action. This is powerful stuff, but I'm guessing it's not always a straight shot to success, right?
You're right. Setbacks are part of the process. What's important is that we learn to adapt and keep moving forward. We'll talk about that more in a sec. So Holiday highlights the importance of persistence and iteration. You know, he uses Ulysses S. Grant's relentless siege of Vicksburg as an example. Grant's persistence and willingness to try unconventional tactics ultimately led to victory.
It's interesting how he links this to the idea of iteration. Constantly experimenting, failing, and improving. Just like Thomas Edison, testing thousands of filaments before finding the one that worked for the light bulb.
Exactly.
What's the takeaway for our listener?
It's about embracing failure as part of the process. We need to extract lessons from those failures and refine our approach. It's not about getting it right the first time, but about learning from our mistakes and continuing to move forward.
It makes me think about how much pressure we often put on ourselves to be perfect right out of the gate. But what if we embrace the idea that failure is just part of learning? What if we gave ourselves permission to experiment and iterate until we find what works?
Exactly. It's about applying that same mindset to life's challenges. We don't need all the answers up front. We can experiment, iterate, and discover what works best for us.
Speaking of finding what works, Holiday argues that the best way to overcome an obstacle is often not to attack it head on, but to find a more indirect approach.
He calls this the flank attack. It's a military strategy that can be applied to, you know, all areas of life. Instead of confronting the obstacle directly, he suggests looking for a more creative, less obvious approach.
He uses General Eisenhower's response to the German counteroffensive in the Battle of the Bulge as an example. So instead of panicking, Eisenhower saw the opportunity to encircle and defeat the enemy.
It was almost as though he'd anticipated the counteroffensive and was simply waiting to trap the Germans.
He was like, come on in, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what I wanted.
This flank attack mentality can be applied to anything. Business, relationships, personal goals. Think of Richard Wright, who found a clever way to access books during segregation. Or, you know, Steve Jobs, who pushed past perceived limits in technology.
So if you're facing what seems like an insurmountable obstacle, maybe step back and ask yourself, is there another way? A less obvious route to get to where I want to be?
Precisely. It's about using creativity and strategy to our advantage.
So we've got shifting our perception, managing our emotions, taking action, persistence, iteration, strategic thinking. But I have a feeling Holiday takes it even further.
You're right. He introduces a concept that may seem challenging at first, but is incredibly powerful.
What is it?
Acceptance. And specifically, the Stoic concept of amor fati. Loving your fate, embracing whatever happens.
That sounds intense. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
He tells the incredible story of Thomas Edison's lab burning down and his reaction, we've just got rid of a lot of rubbish. It's about finding the good even in devastating events.
That's next level resilience.
Right.
So instead of railing against what we can't control, we find a way to accept it. And maybe even find a silver lining.
Exactly. It's not about being passive or resigned, but about recognizing that sometimes things happen that are outside of our control.
Right.
Our energy is better spent adapting to the situation rather than fighting it.
Holiday also uses Lyndon B. Johnson as an example.
Yes.
So when Johnson was falsely accused of draft dodging,
Right.
he turned the attack to his advantage, highlighting his working class credentials.
Yeah.
He didn't get flustered or defensive.
Right.
Instead, he used the attacks to underscore a point he was already trying to make.
It's about using challenges to strengthen our position rather than letting them weaken us.
This ties back to what we were discussing earlier about perception. It's not about ignoring or downplaying obstacles, but about changing our relationship with them.
Exactly.
We can choose to see them as opportunities for growth, learning, and even strategic advantage.
That's the essence of what Holiday is trying to convey.
Yeah.
Obstacles are inevitable, but our response to them is what determines our success.
I love that. So we've covered perception, emotional control, action, persistence, iteration, strategic thinking, even acceptance. But I sense there's still more to unpack.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Right.
Holiday also talks about cultivating an inner citadel.
Okay.
A source of strength that remains untouched by external events.
That sounds incredibly powerful.
Yes.
What can you tell us about this inner citadel? What is it? And why is it so important?
Think of it as that unshakable core within you.
Okay.
A wellspring of resilience, strength, and values that remains steady.
Yeah.
Even when the world around you feels chaotic.
Okay.
Holiday uses Abraham Lincoln as a prime example.
Okay.
Lincoln faced immense personal and political challenges, but remained resilient, compassionate, and guided by a strong moral compass.
Lincoln's ability to find meaning and purpose in adversity is truly inspiring.
Yes.
You know, he battled depression throughout his life, yet never let those internal struggles derail him from his mission. He just kept going.
Yeah.
Always focused on the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This section of the book really emphasizes the power of perseverance.
Okay.
It encourages us to never give up, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating that inner strength that allows us to weather any storm.
So how do we build this inner citadel? What can our listeners do to cultivate that kind of unshakable strength?
It's a lifelong process, but it starts with, consciously choosing our values and commitments.
Right.
It's about defining what truly matters to us.
Okay.
And then letting those values guide our actions, even when things get tough.
So it's not just about like being tough or stoic, but about having a strong sense of purpose and letting that purpose kind of fuel our actions.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about connecting to something larger than ourselves.
Okay.
Something that gives us a sense of meaning and direction.
This makes me think about all the times I've felt stuck or discouraged. Maybe what I was missing was a deeper sense of purpose.
Right.
Like a connection to something that truly inspired me.
That's a really insightful observation.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so caught up in the day-to-day challenges that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
So we've built our inner citadel.
Right.
And we're armed with all these strategies for turning obstacles upside down. What's next?
Okay.
How do we actually apply these ideas in our everyday lives?
Holiday concludes with a powerful call to action.
Okay.
He reminds us that we are all philosophers, in a sense.
Okay.
And that philosophy is about finding practical solutions to life's problems.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm a philosopher now.
Well,
I didn't even have to go to grad school.
Maybe not in the traditional sense.
Okay.
But you're now equipped with a set of tools and perspectives that can help you navigate life's challenges more effectively.
Okay. I like the sound of that.
Good.
But what does it actually mean to be a philosopher in action?
Yeah.
How do we take these ideas out of the theoretical realm and into the real world?
It's about applying these principles to our everyday lives.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that every obstacle, every challenge is an opportunity to practice these disciplines.
Right.
Perception, action.
Okay.
It's about consciously choosing our response to adversity and using it to our advantage.
So instead of seeing obstacles as roadblocks,
Right.
we see them as training grounds for developing our inner strength and resilience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about reframing our relationship with difficulty.
Okay.
It's about seeing challenges as a necessary part of growth and progress.
This reminds me of something we talked about earlier.
Yes.
The idea of adversarial growth and post-traumatic growth.
Right.
The idea that what doesn't kill us can actually make us stronger.
That's a perfect example of how these ideas can be applied in real life.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that even the most difficult experiences can have a silver lining. Mm-hmm. They can teach us valuable lessons, help us develop new skills, and even strengthen our character.
So it seems like the key takeaway here is that we have far more control than we realize.
Absolutely.
Especially over our perceptions and reactions. Yeah. By choosing to see obstacles as opportunities, we unlock a whole new level of possibility.
That's the heart of it.
Yeah.
It's about taking ownership of our experience, even when things don't go according to plan.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we always have a choice.
Okay.
In how we respond to adversity.
It's about remembering that we are not defined by our obstacles.
Right.
But by how we choose to overcome them.
Exactly. And in that choice lies our power.
Wow. This deep dive has been a real journey.
Yeah, it has.
We've covered so much ground. And I feel like I've learned so much about myself and my own potential in the process.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
And remember, the journey doesn't end here.
Right.
Keep learning, keep growing.
Yeah.
And keep turning those obstacles upside down.
You got it.
All right.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you next time.
And that's our summary for today. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to grab your free copy of the audiobook using the link in the description below. See you next time.